During the mythical era, the demon king of tyranny exterminated the humans and even killed the gods, but he sacrifices himself by the hand of useless hero to bring peace. He reincarnates after 2000 years, shocking his parents because he grows up in only a month, but he realizes that his existence was erased from history. The story begins in Del's Gate, where his descendants are chosen to be trained at the Demon King's academy. On the day of the entrance exam, we see a girl nervous about going to the academy, but she gets bumped by a useless shit and she drops her letter, but a hot sexy handsome man picked it up for her, seeing that her name was Misha and that her father was even more useless than his own family. As they began walking away, a useless idiot called him a simp for helping the girl, but Anos walked past him as if he didn't exist. The boy calls out to him and uses his fire magic as he reveals himself as Zeps, a noble from the Hindu family, but Anos doesn't know him, and as he sighs, the flames suddenly disappear. Zeps wonders what he did, so he explains his flames were weak, so he just blew it out, and he uses his voice to make him stay and forced the punk to freeze in his spot and mentally tortured his ass. He continues towards the entrance, where it announces that the practical exam is about to begin inside the academy. Anos learns that the first phase of the practical exam is a duel between the candidates and the loser is gonna dismissed while the winner will be accepted into the academy. Anos prepares to fight and we see that his opponent is the ugly worthless loser he clapped, but this time he's wearing an anti-demonic armor which blocks magic, so he becomes confident and he pulls out one of the 7 legendary swords which was passed down to his family, and it amplifies his magic. He charges at Anos, who mentions that it isn't impressive when it amplifies a weak user, and he blows out the flames. Evrayon is shocked, but he decides to make things interesting and declares that he won't move or use any magic to defeat him. He thinks Anos is just making excuses since he can't overcome his armor, but his organs suddenly explode, so Anos reveals that it was just the sound of his heartbeat which continues to damage man's insides until he falls to his knees, but he refuses to surrender and continued calling Anos an ugly worthless simp, so Anos steps on him, but he mentions that he'll never give up, so Anos snaps his fingers and completely obliterates him, but he realizes he overdid it, so he brings him back to life, telling him to surrender, but he starts insulting Anos. He killed him once again and revived him, but when Zeps said he was from a royal bloodline, Anos began killing him hundreds of times per second, telling him they could do this for thousands of years, but before he would snap his fingers once more, Zeps bowed down to Anos, admitting that he was defeated, and we see a man pointed Anos for challenging the royalty. In the second phase of the exam, they evaluate their magical powers and Misha gets an impressive score. Anos takes the test, but his score is 0 and the Celestial ends up breaking, but Misha can tell it was destroyed by his overwhelming power. They move on to the aptitude test, where they answer a series of questions about the Demon King, but Anos thinks it's too easy and the day ends, and Misha had been waiting outside for Anos to finish. So being the gigachad he is, Anos invited her to stay the night in his room and asked for her hand. As she grabbed onto him, Anos activated his teleportation magic, one of the lost forbidden spells known to mankind. While eating dinner, his mother was worried she would steal her boy away, so she asked her what she liked most about her son. Hesitating for a moment, Misha told her that she loves his big heart. His mom was glad that her son found a sweet wife and went to make them their wedding cake. As they walked home later on, Misha revealed that she hadn't seen her parents since she was born and that the man from earlier wasn't her father but her guardian, and he mentioned that it was a good day and decides to call her his friend, which makes her happy, but there's suddenly magic that surrounds them and an arena is suddenly created as a man appears from the shadows, introducing himself as Leoric Indu, the brother of Zeps, who is also there to get revenge, but Leoric grabs him by the neck, telling him the family doesn't need weaklings, and electrocutes him until he dies. Leoric explains that they're the descendants of the Demon King, so they shouldn't be disrespected by half-breeds, but Anos mentions that lineage doesn't matter and it's all about power. Leoric gets angry at him for belittling them and calls his men to attack. He threatens to kill Anos, who thinks he should know his place, and Anos uses his powers to interfere with their magic as they try to control their spells, but they end up exploding. Leoric wonders what he did, so he explains that he made their magic go berserk, saying they're no match for him, but Leoric refuses to lose to a hybrid, so he decides to cast a forbidden spell that can only be used by royalty. He unleashes his powers and the place is taken over by his magic, but he realizes that Anos is unharmed. Anos recognizes it as origin magic, which involves borrowing the Demon King's power, but he explains it doesn't work on him since he's the source of the power. He realizes that Leorig is inexperienced and he decides to give him a chance, so he resurrects Zeps, but he turns into a zombie. He asks Leorig why he killed him and he tries to stop him, but his attacks don't work as Anos explains that zombies become stronger from the hatred of those who killed them, so he tells Leorig he must acknowledge his brother and remember their moments together to stop the hatred, but he refuses to do it and Zeps is about to attack him, so he freaks out as Anos tells him to call his brother's name, so he screams Zeps's name as he recalls the moments they spent together, but the field suddenly explodes and they are both killed. Anos is disappointed that bonds in this era have become weak, but he uses his magic on them and he protects Misha as he erases the place from existence. He's disappointed with how worthless his descendants have become and they ask him who he is, so Anos reveals that he's the true Demon King of Tyranny. Back in the mythical age, the hero of the world had arrived to challenge the Demon King, but Anos revealed that killing demons wouldn't bring an end to their war. However, to give peace a chance, Anos offered to sacrifice all of his magical energy life to create a barrier between the four dimensions, saying he was also tired of this tragedy, so the hero decided to trust him and thanked him for his kindness. After that moment, Anos began the ritual, and with the hero stabbing him in the heart, Anos wished that in their next life they could become friends. As the expansion of the magical energy exploded outwards, the barriers between the realms were created, and a few moments later Anos had awakened to his new parents. During his first day in school, Misha told him that he was the only one who failed the knowledge exam, but when he wondered how that was possible, he decided to investigate her memories, realizing that the Demon King's name had actually been changed to Avos Dilhavia, and when the class began, the teacher showed them the basis of all magical circles, but Anos told her that she was completely wrong, so as he walked down to show her the truth, she threatened to expel him if he was wasting her time. With a single change to the magical flow, Anos doubled energy and the output of magical effects and walked back to his seat, shocking Ivrione. After taking his seat, the teacher announced that there will be a group duel in the upcoming weeks, so those who wanted to become group leaders must introduce themselves. A hot blonde girl was the first one up, saying her name was Sasha, as Misha reveals that she's her sister, but Anos wonders why she's a pure blood while Misha is considered a hybrid, so she explains that it was a family decision. Amelia tells him it's his turn, so he introduces himself and tells them that the Demon King they believe in is a fake. The students are divided into 4 groups and Sasha is surrounded because Ivrione wants to be on her team. Sasha came up to Anos telling him that even though he managed to get a teammate, she was nothing but a worthless piece of garbage and that she didn't even have her own soul but was just a doll controlled by magic. To those words, Anos thinks of her as an arrogant child who doesn't understand the flow of magic, so Sasha promised to pay him back for his insolence, so she decides to use her Eye of Destruction to punish him. Everyone's terrified, but her power has no effect on him because he has his own Eye of Destruction, and he tells her not to underestimate him. He admits that she has a good level of magic and invites her to join her sister in his team, but she mentions that she never considered Misha as her sister. After class, Sasha talks to Anos wanting to add conditions to their team duel battle. She promises to join his team if she loses, but if she wins, she wants him to become her slave. He accepts her conditions knowing he can't lose, but she appears to be confident and she walks away as he realizes she still can't properly control her eyes. A week later, their teams face off in the forest and they create a Z-Pact to establish their bet. The match begins and we learn that the goal is to take down the enemy's leader. Sasha's team builds their fort as Misha asks Anos about his plan and he promises to surprise them. She quickly builds 3 castles with her spell, but Sasha thinks it's an illusion to buy time and she decides to make the first move, but they suddenly see Anos approaching the castle. She's ready to punish him. Just then he called them all weak, filthy and cowards, and they wondered how he could hear their voices. So he told them that their encryption spell was easier to break than their mom's backs at night, as he held the castle and he lifted the entire thing with a single hand and tossed the castle towards the sky before catching it. He spins the castle and threw it far off in the distance, sending it crashing into the ground, and the students were battered from the accident. After that, Sasha suggested a new attack, Geograce spell powerful enough to destroy any monster before his eyes. They summoned a powerful weapon using a combined spell and fired Geograce. Anos thought they deserved a reward for their effort, but he fires a small flame which pierces through their spell, causing it to disappear. The flame is about to reach them, so they try to use barriers to stop it, but it breaks through all of them and hits the castle, blowing Ivrione away. Sasha manages to stand up and Anos appears before her as she wonders how he was able to cast Geograce alone, but he reveals that he only used a Grega, which is considered as the weakest fire spell, but he won because he's just way stronger than them. He reminds her about their agreement and she promises to get revenge, but she knows she can't break their pact, so she joins his team thinking he did it just for Misha, but he mentions that there's another reason, saying that her eyes are beautiful since they radiate one of the most elegant forms of magic he has ever seen. They head to his house where we see that his mother is proud of his victory. Sasha introduces herself, so his mother freaks out again and his father thinks he's amazing for having two girlfriends. They eat together and Sasha appears to be happy after the meal. Anos accompanies the sisters home and notices that they're closer now. They arrive at their house and he's about to leave, but Sasha decides to talk to him, thanking him for helping her make up with Misha, and she mentions that he was the only one who ever challenged her, so she asks a weird question wondering what he would do if his fate was already sealed, but he explains it wouldn't matter because he would just change his fate. She thinks he's amazing and she kisses him, but she explains it was just as a friend. He tells her it was a good gift, so she blushes. However, she was worried that kiss would make her pregnant, so Anos vanished before she would drag him into paying child support. The following day at school, Misha told Anos that Sasha's birthday was the next day and wondered what she could offer her as a gift. At that moment Sasha arrived, taking a seat at their table and telling Anos that her former teammates intend to join his team, but he told her that he has no interest in her band of losers. Before long, the teacher began telling them that the Demon King of Tyranny was expected to reincarnate soon, and in anticipation of his rebirth, one of the 7 elder demon emperors would be revealing some special magic to them. Just then Ivis Necron entered the room and Anos called him out by his name, asking him if he remembers his master, but the teacher promised to expel him immediately. However, the elder decided to pardon him and wondered how they met. Anos was wondering how his memories were manipulated from 2000 years ago. Anos tries to force him to remember, shocking Ivrione, but he realizes something and releases him as Ivis ignores what happened and proceeds to teach the spell. After class, Anos talks to Ivis, explaining that he restored his lost memories from 2000 years ago, but it seems the past has been changed and Ivis believes that the Demon King is Avos Dilhavia, so Anos realizes that someone rewrote the past after his death and erased everyone's memories about him. Ivis still isn't sure if he's the true Demon King because he could be lying to steal his master's place, so he decides to remain neutral for the time being. Anos goes to talk to Misha and he finds her looking at the letter from her guardian. He asks her why she hasn't opened it yet, so she explains that she prefers to keep it as a talisman. Sasha is with the other students and they ask her why she's hanging out with Anos and Misha, calling them misfits, so she gets angry, using her eyes of destruction to split the ground before walking away. In the next class, the teacher tells the students to collect magical tools inside the dungeon, telling them they will be able to keep the items for their team. They rush into the dungeon to complete the task, but Sasha wonders why Anos is taking his time. He thinks the best way to win is to acquire the scepter at the lowest level of the dungeon, but she explains that not even the teachers have reached that level and she isn't sure if the scepter even exists, but he knows he'll find it, telling them they're about to enter his castle. They descend into the dungeon, realizing that the monsters have been defeated by the other students. Anos suggests that Misa use one of the items in the treasure room as a present for Sasha's birthday. He wonders if she also wants something, asking her about her birthday, so she reveals that it's the same as Sasha, telling him they're actually twins. Before long they arrived at a wall and thought that it was a dead end, but Anos told them that it was actually a secret passageway. Sasha tried using her demonic eyes to see inside but realized that she couldn't see anything, so Anos broke through the wall, revealing the secret passage. When they arrived inside an inner room, Anos revealed that he had kept it a secret domain for activating natural magic circles, but noticed that it looks different from how he left it and wondered who manipulated it while he was gone. Eventually they appeared before the great door leading to the scepter and Misha realized that it has anti-magic protection, but Anos merely pushed it open. After spotting the scepter, Anos invited Misa into a private room and told her to pick out a gift for Sasha, so she chose a phoenix robe and thought it would be the best gift for her twin. A few moments later, they rejoined Sasha and Misha gave her the gift she found, wishing a happy birthday to her NLY twin sister, realizing how kind her sister was. Sasha promised to treasure it forever and screamed at Anos to give her some privacy so she could put it on. However, when he returned he realized that Sasha had killed Misha. Just then she began calling him a disgusting loser who was brainwashed with a kiss. However, Anos thought she was only putting up a show and had intentionally grazed Misha's heart with the edge of the knife, determined to prove him wrong. Sasha revoked their agreement with a new spell, and Anos wondered how she managed to break one of the strongest demonic pact. She went on to say that Misha was born to be nothing but her worthless slave, simply a doll born to be used by her. She casts a spell on Misha and threatens to end her life if he tries to capture her, but when she activates her flight spell he manages to catch her and Misha's wound disappears. She realizes it was just an illusion and he reveals that he healed Misha as soon as he entered the room. He knows that her eyes of destruction activate when her emotions run high, but he noticed that her eyes didn't activate when Misha wished her a happy birthday and it only lit up when she received the cloak, and he asks her why her eyes didn't activate after betraying Misha. Thinking she's too calm to be real, she activates her demonic eyes and it starts destroying the room, but he ignores it and he uses his powers to restrain her. Misha begs him to forgive her, so he lets her go and Misha tries to help her, but she grabs the scepter and flies away. He ignores her and tells Misha to explain everything she's hiding, so she reveals that she isn't a magical doll and will actually disappear at midnight. She explains that she's a copy of Sasha and he realizes that Sasha was able to break the Z Pact because it was made with herself. Ivis created her from Sasha using a spell that splits a person into two, but the magic has a time limit, so she only has 15 years to live before merging back with Sasha. Anos knows that the goal of this is to increase Sasha's natural magic, and Misha explains that Reincarnated treated her like she never existed, but she's happy that he became her friend, thinking it was a miracle that he talked to her. He hugs her, calling her an idiot, and he tells her to live like she wants to exist. At the same time in the dungeon, the door vanished before Sasha could leave, and at that instant Anos appeared with Misha, saying that Misha hopes to make peace with her. Misha tried asking if she really hates her, but Sasha decided to challenge Anos to another duel, saying she would only answer Misha's questions if Anos was able to control her magic circles. Just then Sasha began drawing magic circles, but Anos knew that she had created the circles beyond her level of control and realized that she had intended on failing their duel, so in an instant Anos activated the magic and won the duel, so Sasha agreed to talk to her sister. She remembered that when they were little, Misha had always stayed by her side even when she had no control over her demonic eyes. However, she was abandoned by Reincarnated for being a copy, so to save her from disappearing at the midnight of their 15th birthday, Sasha began researching for magic spells that would make her live forever. As she began casting a spell, she told Misha that her magic circle would switch their fates, but that the only way to activate it was to reject her. She revealed that everything she has done till this very moment was for Misha to hate her, so she tried to make Misha hate her, but she reveals that she actually loved her. Sasha is ready to accept her new destiny and she activates her spell, but it doesn't work as Misha tells her she'll never hate her. Sasha can't believe it and she starts searing as she begs Misha to reject her because she doesn't want her to disappear, but Misha tells her it's okay because she'll continue to stay by her side as a part of her. She's happy to finally reunite with her sister, telling Anos she has no regrets because she experienced 2 miracles in her lifetime, but he tells her the real miracle hasn't happened yet, saying there's a solution to keep both of them alive. He thinks he only needs to change the past, telling them they used to be 2 different beings, so if they go back in time when the fusion magic was activated there will be 2 original sources instead of 1, so the spell will merge the 4 sources and they will become true twins. He tells them they need to go back in time, but Sasha knows they aren't strong enough, so he gives them a portion of his powers as he explains that they need to believe that he's the true demon king of tyranny, but Ivis suddenly breaks through the ceiling and stabs right through him, thinking he's preventing Sasha from becoming the perfect vessel for his master's awakening, but he tells Ivis that his master is already alive and pushes him back. Anos removes the blade and throws it back at Ivis, pinning him against the wall. He explains that he doesn't have time to play around and he decides to activate his magic to send the girls back in time, but they're suddenly interrupted as the guardian god of time appears, telling them he's there to punish them for disrupting the flow of time. He takes Ivis and he rewinds time to heal him like he wasn't just annihilated, so the guardian granted him all his power and the elder returned to life ready to execute them. Anos casts Geograce at him but he stops it, saying he has become invincible. He manages to break Anos's barrier, stabbing him from behind, and the girls see him disappeared as Ivis brags about his new power, but Anos suddenly appears behind him, reminding him that he can't die. Ivis wonders how he's still alive, so he explains that he resurrected and he was the only person that could actually end himself, but Ivis refuses to give up and he decided to stop time for eternity as darkness covers the area and Sasha and Misha are frozen, but it has no effect on Anos, who mentions that the spell is useless against him. Ivis can't believe it and he charges in trying to kill Anos, but he stops him with his barriers, forcing him to retreat as he explains that he's the real Demon King. He tells Misha and Sasha that he can destroy all the obstacles in their path because a good husband should protect his wives, so they no longer need to worry about anything if they decide to follow him. The spell suddenly breaks and they call his name as they start to glow because they now believe he's the true Demon King of Tyranny. They find their past selves and the four sources finally merge and the spell is completed. Anos reminds Elder that they're in his castle and he pulls out his sword of destruction. Ivis tries to escape but Anos suddenly stabs him and he realized as he can't heal himself. Anos tells the god not to challenge him again and he continues to attack Ivis and completely destroys his body. Everything returns to normal and Anos calls Ivis back to life, explaining that his sword eliminated the demon and the god who took over his body. Ivis asks for forgiveness and swears loyalty to him. Anos restores his memories and tells him to watch the other elders and find out who erased his memories. The girls also return to normal. Anos tells them it's time to head back, saying there's still time to receive the highest grade for the exam. They leave the dungeon and Misha is exhausted but she's glad it's all over and decides to finally read her letter. Sasha was happy that they were both alive and apologized to Misha for treating her badly for all these years, but before they left, Anos gifted Misha a lily pad ice ring that could freeze the entire sea in a heartbeat, saying that he found it in the inner room of the dungeon and thought it would make a perfect birthday gift for her. The following day in class, Sasha began waiting for the teacher to announce their perfect score from the dungeon exam. However, when she arrived, she decided to announce that a transfer student would be joining the class and called him a master of the magic sword. For the exam, she began saying that Anos' special scepter had gone missing, but the teacher said that because it wasn't appraised before going missing, she would only give their team 70 points. However, a girl named Misa thought her actions were cruel, saying that the hybrids and royalty deserved the same treatment, but the teacher told her to shut her ugly ass mouth and threatened to expel her from the school. Just then Anos appeared before a student, saying he had found the ugly useless thief after pulling the scepter out of his chest before giving it to the teacher, knowing that she allowed the student to steal it, and he called her a worthless virgin who was so lonely that she had to try and ruin the lives of happy teenagers because she was miserable her entire life. Misa decided to thank Anos for revealing the thief, but Sasha told her to get her ugly face away from her man. However, Misa told Anos that she belongs to a group of Unitarians who are hoping to unify the demon race and wondered if he would be willing to join their group, saying that only the Demon King would be able to make a difference. She mentions that one of the 7 elders is supporting them and they think Anos is the Demon King of Tyranny. So later that evening, as soon as the girls saw him, they climaxed from his hot face, wondering if his sword would ever penetrate their insides all the way into their spine and leave them in wheelchairs. They look around the tower and Sasha sees pictures of Anos, but Misa decides to show him something. They go to a room where they see a sword, as Misa explains that she's the daughter of a noble demon and a water spirit. She never met her father because he's a pure-blooded demon while she's a hybrid, but he sent her the sword on her 10th birthday. She thinks he has the other half and she hopes that one day all demons will unite so that she can finally meet him, and she asks Anos to join their group. The next day we see students in the arena trying to pull their magic swords from the ground, but Sasha realized that the swords drain their powers so they can't pull it out and they were basically hopeless at that moment. 2 of the elders, Demon Emperors Gaios and Idol, teach the class and they announces that only the students who pull out their swords can participate in the magic sword tournament. Sasha wonders why Anos hasn't pulled out a sword, thinking he can't do it, but he reveals that there's only one weapon he can't wield and it's the holy sword that Kano used in the mythical era, and he makes one of the swords fly to him as one of the elders praises him and decides to challenge him, but they see another boy lifting a sword and we learn that he's the transfer student Lei, and Idol decided to face him and immediately advances to attack, but the student easily knocks him out as Anos takes out Gaius like a piece of trash. They return to class and the teacher is surprised that the transfer student doesn't want to be the leader of a group. He introduces himself as Ray and he asks Anos if he can join his team. Amelia mentions that royalty can't take orders from a hybrid, but Ray thought the school rules were as useless as her dating life, and he asks Anos again but he refuses because he wants Ray to show his determination first, and he asks Misa to join Ray's team because he wants to fight them in the next group battle. On the day of the competition, Anos tells the girls to take care of the other team while he fights against Ray. Misha creates a castle and Sasha notices that her magic has improved. She thinks it's because of the ring, but Anos reveals that they both became stronger because they merged with their past selves. He teleports to Ray realizing he's waiting for him, but a giant golem suddenly appears as Anos realizes that Ray is sharing his power with his team, so he decides to balance the fight by using a stick. Sasha is having trouble dealing with the golem, so Anos tells her to combine her powers with Misha and use Geograce. As Ray complains that he isn't focusing on their fight, Sasha wonders if their power will be enough, but Misha trusts Anos and they prepare to use the spell. As the Geograce cannon appears, they activate the spell and Misha fires it while Sasha boosts its speed, allowing them to blow up the golem. Sasha realizes they have become stronger, but Misa suddenly attacks her. Meanwhile, Ray appears to be reaching his limit, but he gets back up and continues his fight with Anos, who was clapping Ray's as Sasha struggles against Misa, so she decides to use her Phoenix Cloak, but Misa is confident that she can defeat her using Ray's sword. The golem is about to attack her, so Misha appears to help, and they decide to combine their powers using their fire and ice magic to create a superior spell which sweeps away both Misa and the golem. They're proud of themselves, but the ground suddenly starts shaking and they realize that the battle between Anos and Ray is destroying everything around them, but Anos thinks it doesn't matter because the forest will regenerate thanks to the natural mana, and Ray mentions that he's also too excited to stop. They continue to exchange blows as Anos mentions that this is the first time he's had a real opponent since his reincarnation. Ray decides to end things and he gets up above Anos to deliver the finishing blow, but Anos stops it with his stick, ending the fight as he mentions that he's impressed because Ray was able to keep up with him. Ray surrendered but wondered if they had met before and thought he was familiar. Anos told him that he was the Demon King and welcomed him into his team. At his home that evening, Anos' teenage mother began celebrating his increasing harem, but the girls thought she was a useless, ugly creep that should stay far away from their man. The next day at school, the teacher announced that Ray and Anos have been chosen to fight in the Magic Sword tournament and told them to prepare their swords before it started. However, when the class was over, Anos told Ray that he thought it was suspicious that the royalty of the academy were drafting him into the tournament list. Just then Misa arrived saying that one of the 7 elder emperors was at the Union Tower. Before long they arrived at the tower and the elder Melhais told Anos that he woke up in the spirit forest and it took him 100 years to cross the barrier to the demon world, and he has been expecting his reincarnation for 2000 years. He told him that half of his memories were erased after his death, but his soul never forgot him. Anos thought Avos Dilhavia was behind all of this and wondered who chose him for the tournament. That evening when Anos arrived home, he discovered that Misha had cooked him dinner like a good wife, so after the meal he offered to take her out on a date. Seeing as she made a better wife than Sasha, and with the girl excited, he told her to choose the place she wishes to go. The following evening, they arrived at a magic model shop for their date, but Anos wondered how this was better than a restaurant inside. Anos noticed the model houses and soon discovered that Misha had made them as she led him into the workshop. She used her ice magic to create a model of their dinner and Anos was impressed with her work, deciding to give it a try. He summoned the entire realm, and at the sight of this, the shop owner thought she could sell it for $1 million, but he had no desire to sell it and told her to get lost. Anos realizes that Misa keeps admiring his model, so he transforms it into a ring and gives it to her, saying she'll always be able to see it. She thanks him and they see a cat cafe, so they decide to check it out. A strange cat appears before them and it starts talking to them. As Misha realizes it's Ivis, he reports to Anos saying Misa's unification group is being controlled by someone, but the group has no idea who he is. He mentions that there's a mysterious person working in a hospital, but he isn't sure if he's connected to Misa's group, so Anos tells him to keep an eye on Melhais in the Magic Sword tournament. They go to check the hospital Ivis mentioned and Anos notes that it doesn't look suspicious, but Ray suddenly appears and asks him why he's there, so he tells them he came to visit his mother, but Ray thought it was a dead-as lie. Anos offers to heal her since he can cure any disease with his powers, but Ray doesn't pay much attention and told him that she was totally hopeless, and he enters the hospital as they realize he's acting strange. The day of the tournament arrives and Ivis tells Anos that a few of the other demon emperors intend to lure him into a trap during the fight, so he considers dropping out, thinking it could make Avos Dilhavia appear. The owl announces the start of the tournament as Anos's opponent appears, but everyone realizes that he hasn't shown up, so they think he gave up. We see that he's waiting for Avos Dilhavia to appear as everyone starts trash-talking him, but his mother suddenly starts yelling at them, telling them he will become the Demon King. His father appears in the tunnel, revealing that he made a magic sword for him and mentions that his victory will prove that even a hybrid can become the Demon King, so Anos takes the sword and thanks his father, realizing he has no reason to be cautious as he wants to make his parents happy, so he decides to fight and face any trap that appears. He jumps into the arena and he apologizes for wasting his opponent's time, promising to finish the fight in 1 minute. His opponent charges in, but he easily avoids the attacks as his fans sing a song in his honor, so his opponent gets angry and decides to use his secret technique, but it doesn't work. Anos decides to attack, thrusting his sword to create wind, which strikes his opponent and destroys his sword. Anos is declared as the winner as he mentions that he was able to win in exactly 1 minute, but Amelia is furious because he defeated her brother. We see Anos and Misa in the waiting room where they watch Ray as he wins his duel, and he joins them, but he announces that he's now a part of the royal faction and he suddenly attacks Anos, who grabs onto his heart. We see they were just testing each other and they look forward to their fight in the finals. Anos notices the presence of a magical collar on Ray which is designed to destroy his source, so Anos thinks he has been taken as a hostage. The day ends and everyone congratulates Anos on his victory. His mother offers to keep his sword for him, thinking he must be tired and she knows he can't lose it or he'll be disqualified from the tournament. He hands it to her and she's surprised by its weight but promises to protect it with the help of the girls. Anos goes to the hospital with Misa and they find Ray's mother. He realizes that her magic is getting weaker and discovers that she's suffering from a spiritual disease he has never heard of. He knows she's going to disappear, realizing she's a half-spirit and half-demon like Misa, who wondered how Ray is from royalty. Anos thinks she might be his foster mother, wondering how to cure her, but she suddenly wakes up and she recognizes Anos. She explains that Ray always talks about him and calls him a friend, but he asks her if she knows that Ray made a pact. So she told him that she knew and said that it was the only way of getting her treated. Anos asks about her disease, so she explains that a spirit exists thanks to the feelings of everyone who believes in their source, but half-spirits are susceptible to disappearing because their source is weaker. She starts talking about Ray, saying that he was a special kid who had always loved sword play but was sad that he could never find a real opponent. She reveals that he was happy when he lost to Anos and she asks him to fight Ray in the tournament so that he can use his full strength and stop worrying about her. Anos knew he would defeat Ray but didn't want to be the reason for his mother passing away, so he tried casting a spell telling Misa to consume her source with her spirit magic. Seeing as they could both be wiped out, he told her not to lose all her source as it would be impossible to resurrect either of them. Misa was determined to save her and agreed instantly because she believes in him. The spell begins and her source flows into Ray's mother, but he notices something and we see his mother and the squad were heading home. Amelia suddenly appears before them as she began telling them that the governing committee was supposed to hold Anos's sword until the finals, but his mother thinks it's better to deliver it to the committee personally, so Amelia tries to take it by force, but she refuses to hand it over. Amelia shot a powerful ball, nearly destroying her. Realizing she was wounded, the teacher fired a mightier ball, but the girls protected her with a magical barrier until they were knocked away by the force of the blast. After spotting the wounded girls, Anos's mother reminds her that she's attacking her own students, but she thinks hybrids don't have the right to go to her class. She mentions that Anos humiliated her brother in the tournament, so she wants to get revenge. She fires a powerful energy beam, but the girls get back up to shield it, and one of them told Anos's mother to run away. However, the teacher said that they were too weak and increased the energy until it consumed them. Even so, the girls would not surrender, so the teacher cast a fiery spell to burn them to a crisp. Anos's mother sees the charred remains of the girls, so she becomes desperate as Amelia prepares to finish her off, but Anos suddenly appears, protecting her from the attack. He called the teacher an ugly, disgraceful piece of trash and restrained her with a spell. Just then he healed his mother's wound and revived all the girls, saying he would never forget them for their bravery. As he approached the teacher, he told her that he would punish her for being so ugly, and they vanished into the arena. Before she could escape, he stabbed her with a sword, but he promises to spare her if she recognizes him as the true Demon King. He starts torturing her and she calls him the Demon King, but he thinks she doesn't mean it, so he decides to kill her, but he casts a spell to resurrect her in a new body, telling her that she's now a hybrid, so she loses it and tries to take her own life, but he reveals he plays a curse on her so that she can't, and he condemns her to live as a hybrid forever, and he teleports away. Meanwhile, Misa is busy with this spell when Rei suddenly finds her, asking her what she's doing. He realizes she's sharing her power with his mother in an attempt to save her, so he lowers his knife, but he mentions that she's losing too much of her own source. He knocked her out to silence her ugly mouth and laid her on the couch. At that moment he realized that his mother was conscious, and she began telling him that she was ready to rest in peace. She said that she was happy to have found him after he was abandoned by his family and was proud to have been his mother as she fell unconscious. Anos appears and he sees Misa lying down, so he looks outside and he sees Rei leaving the hospital, and by the next day they faced off for their duel. With the fight ready to begin, both of them wore a spirit drain bracelet that would limit their magic powers as the duel began, and Rei and Anos finally prepare to have a real duel. The duel begins and they start fighting. Rei wondered how Anos remained so powerful even with the spirit drain bracelet and revealed that his bracelet was an ordinary ornament. However, he had no intentions of slaying him, so the contractual swords pierced his source and was ready to end him. Rei told Anos that he just ruined his contract with the royalist group and that his mother would be eliminated soon. He thought his life would end once the swords extinguish his source, and told Anos that he has no desire to drag him down with him. However, he promised to kick his ass before he drew his final breath. He decides to die fighting Anos with everything he has. Anos is ready for the duel, telling him to focus on the battle, and they start fighting as the others notice that they're moving too fast for their eyes, as Rei dodged Anos's attacks and he stuck him in the arm and jumped away before attacking again with lightning speed, continuing with a barrage of attacks as they both get injured. They dance against each other when Anos cuts Rei, telling him the fight is over. They move forward for the final attack and Anos loses his arm, but he manages to stab Rei, who thanks him for the fight. A magic circle is activated and the floor descended deep into the ground inside a dimensional prison, where he finally sees the person responsible for the tournament. The bird transforms into Malleus, who reveals that he was waiting for the right moment and is happy that he can finally get rid of him. He mentions that half of Anos's magical powers were drained by the bracelet, so he thinks killing him will be easy, and two other elder emperors appeared from a portal to support him. Anos mentions that they just gave themselves away as Rei cuts the elders and Anos freezes time. Malleus wonders how Rei is still alive, so he explains that Anos had destroyed his sword contract in his final strike. Even so, the elder thought he has the upper hand and revealed Rei's mother, who was trapped with his spell. He decides to bargain, saying he will heal her if Rei swears loyalty to the nobility, but Anos distracts him as Rei throws his sword and jumps into the portal. Malleus refuses to lose and creates new portals that release a mist which is similar to what Anos used to separate the four realms 2 million years ago. As he unleashed, it repelled on his shield, so he released more darkness, but they could not break his cover. The elder told him that he was trapped, but his arm began flying around, forcing Malleus to retreat. The mist continues to attack Anos as Malleus hides in an impenetrable space, and he summons a portal to attack Rei, but Anos cast an anti-demonic spell to protect him. Using the covers, Anos told Rei that he had overused his powers and wondered if he could help him out. Rei told him to create a great sword using his anti-demonic spell so he could destroy all the darkness. Anos creates one using his magic. Rei is ready to clear the way using the sword, trying to cut the mist, but his sword ends up breaking, so Anos protects him again. He thinks he doesn't stand a chance, but his mother starts talking to him, offering her power to help him. Rei was afraid she would disappear forever, and she told him that she would always stay with him, and transformed into a mighty sword. But once he destroyed the darkness and began slashing everything in his path as he arrived before the portal, he flew through with a powerful light, destroying all the darkness and even breaking into Malleus' impossible dimension. When he was done, his mother transformed and told him that she was proud of him before vanishing from his sight. As Rei grew sad, Anos told him that his mother could be resurrected, but Elder Malleus thought it wasn't over and began preparing another darkness dimension to eliminate them. Before he knew it, Anos appeared behind him and he wondered how he managed to enter his absolute space in an instant. The elder trapped him inside and it exploded immediately. However, Anos was unscathed, so he created another darkness domain to surround him, but it dispelled. Malleus in shock, he wonders how Anos is surviving his attacks, and Anos summons his sword, revealing that he finally recovered all his powers thanks to coming in contact with the mist. Anos attacks with his sword, so Malleus tries to escape, but he gets cut even after dodging it, as Anos explains that his sword can destroy all laws. Malleus becomes desperate and summons countless portals to attack, but Anos shatters them. Instantly he stabs Malleus with his sword, killing the creature inside him, so he returns to normal and recovers his memories. They return to the arena and Malleus tells Anos that he was being controlled by an unknown entity which attacked him after they met at the tower. Anos summons two elder emperors and Anos said that their minds have been fused and taken over. Anos thought their sources were being controlled by Avos Dilhavia and decided to revive them. However, a blast destroyed the sources and they saw a mysterious man in the darkness. Just then the spell began to erase and the students wondered who won the duel. However, when the smoke cleared, they found Rei unconscious and Anos was declared the winner. For his victory speech, Anos began saying that his sword had done all the work and called his father a national hero. When he was done, he decided to heal Rei, who is still sad to lose his mother, but Anos brings her back to life and Rei reunites with her, wondering how he was able to do it. So he explains that after discovering she was a sword spirit, he managed to spread rumors with his magic and people started believing in her source again. Sasha presented Anos with a sword for his victory and told him that she always believed he would win, promising to stay by his side forever, and gives him a kiss. Back in the mythical era, we see Anos crossing several barriers as the hero. Kano wonders why he's there. He explains that he came to talk, asking Kano if he doesn't want to stop the war, but the commander Jerga suddenly attacks and he tells Kanon not to listen to Anos, thinking he would never want peace. He draws power from his troops to become stronger, wanting to avenge his family that was killed by demons, but Anos easily pierces his chest, telling Kano to come to his castle as he teleports away. Kano checks on Jerga before running to get help and his necklace falls, but Jerga vows to get revenge on Anos in the next life. The following day, a new teacher introduced herself to the class, saying that she would be replacing their old teacher who mysteriously vanished from the school. She said that they would be traveling to the human realm and would be having an inter-academy class at the Hero Academy. However, the students had never been to the human realm and they wondered if it was safe. They afraid that they might all be slain in their sleep. After the class, Anos decided to train his friends, thinking they might face off with some reincarnated heroes and hoped to prepare them for the battle. As Misha created an ice sword for Rei, he began jumping up the ice to slash Anos, but he broke his sword and punched him straight to the ground, calling him a disgraceful weakling. That evening, Elder Malleus told Anos that he managed to resurrect the two other elders but discovered that their memories were also stolen away. He thought the human realm was responsible and told Anos that the Hero Academy was starting to train reincarnated heroes for a possible war with their realm. After a few days, the students were ready to leave for the human realm. However, Anos teleported them in an instant and decided to explore the city. Inside the city, Anos notices that the humans are at peace. They arrive at the Hero Academy, but a girl appears asking them who they are and she realizes that they're from the Demon King Academy, so she introduces herself as Ilyana, a third-year senior. She mentions that they arrived early, but Anos cuts her off and reveals that he's interested in the legend of the hero, so she gets excited and decides to show them the school. She gives them a tour and they find a painting of Kano. They go to the library where she shows the book about the hero's legend and how defeated the Demon King of Tyranny, but Sasha gets furious hearing this, saying the Demon King never lost to anyone and he was the one who sacrificed himself to bring peace to the realms. But Anos calms her down, thinking it's normal for the humans to tell the story like this. He wondered who was the Demon King in their history books. Ilyana told him that he was Avos Dilhavia. Ilyana told him that there were 4 reincarnated heroes and that they were all from different eras. At that moment, a student appeared before them and began saying that the Demon King was surely the villain of the world and could not have possibly sacrificed himself to create peace for the realms. He called them worthless losers for doubting their history books and told them to accept defeat already. He introduced himself as Ledriano. saying he was the first hero canon reincarnation and was a member of the elite class. Just then another student appeared calling himself as Laos and said that he was the third reincarnation. However, Anos thought they were anything but the hero's reincarnation and called them a pair of fake hero. Laos thinks he's challenging them, so he rushes at Anos with his special technique, but Anos defeats him in the blink of an eye, so he becomes furious, but Ledriano tells him to calm down and apologizes for his rudeness. After that, Ilana admits that she's impressed and asks if Anos has been reincarnated, so he confirms it, saying he wants to find the true hero. But before he leaves, she tells him that Kano no longer exists, and even if his source returns, he'll no longer be the hero. Ilana told him that the hero Kano was gone as he was killed 2000 years ago. 10 days later, the other students finally arrive in the city and they're surprised to find out that Anos has already been there. A group of seniors confronts Anos as the leader introduces himself as Revest, demanding to know how they arrived before everyone else. Anos said that it was none of his business and told him to get his ugly ass face out of his sight. The first day of the exchange begins and a man named Diego introduces himself as saying he would be their instructor for the inter-academy. For the first class, he shows the students how to recreate objects and he wants them to demonstrate their magic as a test. He chooses Ledriano to represent the humans and the teacher chose Revis to represent the Demon Academy. Shortly, Ledriano cast hero magic on a rusted sword, restoring it instantly and destroying the statue, with everyone impressed. Revis decided to reveal his own ability, but his spell vanished immediately. As he tried casting another spell, it disappeared and Ledriano wondered if the Demon King Academy was full of horrendous losers. However, Anos was sick of their ugly cheating and revealed that they had cast a lid and break concealment spell to seal demon magic, and with a snap the spell broke and the rat grew from all the spell that was cast, turning it into a monster. However, with a spell, Anos caused the monsters to vanish, creating a holy sword before their eyes. With the headmaster shocked by the sight, Ledriano said that Anos was truly the Demon King of Tyranny, reincarnated, but Revest refuses to believe it. At night, Elder Lord tells Anos that the books don't reveal the death of the hero Kano, but the humans believe that the Demon King will attack their world again and the hero will appear wielding his sacred sword. Anos realizes that the human realm is ready for war and he thinks about the hero's sword that can defeat him, but they're interrupted by Sasha and Misha and they invite him to go to the city festival where they see Rei together with Misa and he gives her a shell necklace. The next day the girls are curious about the necklace when Anos reveals that there's a story about it. He mentions that 2000 years ago a couple split a shell in half to ensure that they found each other after they were reincarnated. They arrive at the beach where the students gather for the competition, but Anos notices that Ileana is missing. Diego reveals they will be competing in an underwater fight, telling them not to lose too quickly because he's sending his elite class. One senior thought they were up for the challenge and told the teacher to choose them for the exam, but Anos thought they would lose anyway and told him to back off. However, Revis thought only he was fit to represent the school and offered to take up the position instead. After all, he was the teacher's little pet, so the teacher agreed and hoped they would win for the school. After a moment the exam began and the King Academy summoned a castle underwater. Before long they discovered that they could not sense the Hero Academy magic powers and a student realized that his spells were cancelling, so a few students began swimming towards enemy territory, but a torrent of water knocked one out of the way and another realized that he could not communicate with Revest as he spotted one of the heroes. He tried casting a spell but it cancelled and a torrent wiped him away. So after they succeeded, Ledriano commanded his team to head for the Demon King Castle. At the same time, Sasha realized that the seniors had been led into a trap and thought they had no chance at winning. At that moment the teacher realized that holy water had been mixed with the lake and Anos revealed that the Hero Academy were receiving an endless supply of this holy water to increase their magic powers. Inside the lake the seniors discovered that the three heroes were approaching their castle, so they activated their spells and unleashed a massive dark energy, but the heroes activated their shield and Revest realized that they were unscathed. Just then the three activated a triangular spell and it began sucking up the castle until there was nothing left. Realizing their advantage, one hero summoned his great sacred sword and began destroying everything in sight until even the screen vanished. Afraid for her students, the teacher tried asking the headmaster to end the exam, but he told her to enjoy the sight. When she tried hurrying to the lake, Anos stopped her and offered to rescue the seniors. Just then he activated a spell and raised the group out of the water. With all the students battered, the teacher tried healing Revest but realized that her magic was not working as Anos tried to heal him instead, but Revest pushes him away because he doesn't want his help, but Anos explains that the teacher will be fired if a noble dies, and Revest admits that he's weak, saying he admires Anos' strength and he begs him to help defeat the Hero Academy. Anos manages to heal his wounds and he promises to handle the rest. He gathers his team and challenges the heroes to a second round, and they accept, thinking the demons still haven't figured out their trick, but Anos suddenly casts his Geograce on the lake, drying up all the water in it, and Diego can't believe it, but the heroes still decide to continue. They follow him to the dry lake and Ledriano assures Diego they will still win because they still have a secret weapon. The duel begins and Anos summons another Geograce against the three heroes, but they aren't intimidated and create a barrier that protects them from the attack as a girl suddenly appears and destroys it. He thinks she's another reincarnation of Kano, realizing she's stronger than the others. They see the barrier as Anos explains that it strengthens the humans and weakens the demons, so they need to get rid of it. Misha suggests creating a castle within the barrier to nullify the effects, and he thinks it's a great idea, so he decides to take her inside. She starts creating a castle when the heroes appear with the mysterious girl. Anos asks for her name and Ledriano introduces her as Zesha, the bearer of the fourth source and the light sword. They attack Anos but he emits his energy, knocking them down immediately. Laos gets up frustrated, but Sasha confronts him and announces that she'll be his new opponent while the hero with the sacred sword faces Rei. Laos uses his power to blast Sasha, but she advances against him and he manages to dodge her attack, but he realizes she has stolen his sacred amulet, so he charges at her and summons his sword to recover it, forcing her to retreat while he grabs the amulet. He launches a barrage of attacks when Sasha realizes she can't move because she's caught inside a magical barrier. Laos prepares to deliver the finishing blow, but he suddenly collapses and falls to the ground. He realizes that she poisoned his amulet and she uses her eyes to destroy the barrier. She tells him she's going to punish him for messing with Anos and she starts using her powers to torture him. Meanwhile, the third reincarnation of Kano introduces himself as Heen and we see that Rei has fallen into his barrier. He summons his swords but his arm is suddenly cut off, so he wonders how Rei managed to attack him from inside the barrier, but he restores his arm and declares that he's still stronger. Rei is impressed with the sword Anos gave him, but he picked up a sword. He stuck it in the ground, causing an eruption that threw Heen away, allowing him to catch his sword. Heen had never seen anything like this and wondered how Rei could handle both a demon and a holy sword, but Rei said it was none of his business and told him to rest in peace. Meanwhile, Anos appeared before Ledriano and told him to quit playing pose, so as he confronted him he realized that Anos was a powerful opponent and summoned his sacred Ocean Guardian sword for their battle. Zesha tried sneaking up from behind but Anos shielded her attack. Determined not to quit, she attacked again and began flying around, swinging her blade relentlessly to slice off his face and eventually stabbed him with the edge. However, her blade was shielded and he slammed her to the ground. Ledriano tried taking advantage but he threw them into the far wall. Realizing they were hopeless, Ledriano decided to cast a great spell that covered the entire valley as a bright light surrounded them. Ledriano said that they were channeling the souls of every human in the realm and that this power could eliminate anyone. Just then Zesha rushed at Anos, destroying his barrier, but he evaded a slash and the girl blocked his lightning attack, allowing Ledriano to destroy his shield, but he dodges the attack as Ledriano uses the opportunity to charge in. They don't allow him to recover and they attack him together, but this time they can't break his barrier. Ledriano realizes he's more powerful now and he reveals that he copied Ledriano's idea and also asked for power from his team. The heroes attack again but Anos fans sing for him, giving him more energy and he easily blows them away. Ledriano attacks with an energy blast but Anos easily overpowers him, which throws them against the wall. Ledriano can't believe that their power of 10 million is losing to only 8, but Anos tells him it's not about the number but the strength of the feelings, telling them that their power doesn't even compare to what Kano had 2000 years ago. Everyone suddenly hears a mysterious voice and realizes it's actually a brainwashing spell. Misha tells Anos that it's a voice of pure hatred, but now the heroes are even more determined to eliminate him. He tells Misha to retreat and let go is completely insane as Zesha flies towards Anos and activated a death spell and exploding at that instant. Even so, Anos was unfazed and called himself an immortal god. Just then Zesha attacked again, activating another spell, but Anos realized it was a distraction and buried his hand inside her source. At that instant he heard Ilyena's voice and she told him to meet her inside the shrine and meet immediately. He commanded Misha to meet with her and she soon arrived inside an ancient hall. Right then the headmaster fired a blast that she narrowly shielded. Looking to execute her, he summoned his sword and cast a spell that destroyed her shield, allowing him to stab her from the back. He was angry that the Demon King had caused a war 2000 years ago and thought she deserved to be punished for his evils, so he began penetrating her with his long sword, eager to send her to the afterlife. As he grew deranged, he told her that the Demon Academy had walked right into his trap and would execute every one of them. However, Anos blasted a hole inside him and flung him onto the wall, casting a box around the girl. Anos began to heal her wound and returned to eliminate the man with dark fumes until he disappeared. With a drop, he summoned him and demanded to know why they turned a high school exam into an all-out war when the man would not say. Anos activated a spell turning him into an ugly beast. The man thought he could use his newfound form to his advantage and commanded his students to execute the demons, immediately declaring that he'll honor the hero Kano, but his spell fails and he wonders what happened. Anos explains that he stopped time before it was too late and he removes Diego's source from his body, thinking the Hero Academy is nothing like Kano, remembering all the battles they fought. He begs Anos to kill him, so he crushes his source, erasing him from existence. He carries Misha to the sanctuary where he finds Ilana and he asks her who she really is, so she reveals that she's magic itself, saying she was created with a forbidden spell that changes humans into magic. Anos realizes that she's responsible for the barrier and for healing the heroes. After they were defeated, she was using her power to create clones of Zeshia, which explains why she kept coming back. He breaks the glass with his demonic eyes to free her and he gives her a uniform. She lifts her barrier and she reveals that everything was planned by Jerga, the commander who hated demons. He feared that humans would forget their hatred for demons, so he created the Hero Academy to keep the resentment alive and transformed his source into two spells. The first is the spell that allows the sharing of power, and she's the second one, but she's considered as a failure because she didn't inherit the hatred for demons that Jerga had. She reveals that 2000 years ago Kano went against his war plans, so he was betrayed and killed by his own men. Ilyana confesses that she was waiting to meet Anos, telling him to destroy her because she wants to put an end to Jerga madness. A claw of Diego interrupts them as she explains that he and the heroes will keep coming back unless she's destroyed. At the same time, the three remaining demon emperors exploded the door and Avos Dilhavia pulled out the hero's holy sword. Desperate to stop them, the man fired an energy blast, but a black orb absorbed all the energy and even swallowed up the men. Just then Anos appeared before them, realizing who he was, and unleashed Geograce, but Avos slashed it apart, dispersing it. He said that he had come to change the world and vanished in that instant. That evening, a hologram of the headmaster revealed to the humans that the Demon King of Tyranny had reawakened and that he had declared a war on the human realm. At the same time, in the infernal realm, Avos appeared in another hologram saying that the human realm was evil and deserved to be wiped out like a stain on a dirty dish. Inside the tower, Elder Malleus told Anos that Avos has gained the support of all the demon lords and that their armies were marching onto the borders. At that moment, Misha and Sasha appeared, offering their support to Anos, and the others promised to stay with him forever. So the next day, Sasha and Misha appeared before the demon army, determined to keep them away from the border. Outside of the kingdom, Race lay several troops on the other side of the forest, looking to keep them away from the east border on the edge of the infernal realm. Anos told the elder emperors that he would face off with Avos and unleashed flames to scare off the troops. As the elders appeared through the fire, the soldiers thought they were ghosts, but Anos appeared before their eyes, calling himself the true Demon King. Even so, the troops thought he was a fake and decided to attack him, but with a step he destroyed the ground far onto the castle. Just then the three other elders began flying towards them, but Elder Malleus thought they would be a piece of cake, so Anos disappeared to the castle. Before long, Malleus told him with thought communication that the three elders had been restrained, but said that their source isn't inside them. Anos realizes that Avos isn't in the castle and we see him walking to the border, but a barrier suddenly surrounds him and Anos appears before him. Avos summons Kano's sacred sword and they charge at each other, causing a huge blast from the impact. Anos realizes that and Avos summons Kano's sacred sword and they charge at each other, causing a huge blast. From the impact, Anos realizes that he's actually Kano because he's the only one that can wield the sword, but Anos sees his necklace and Avos removes his mask, revealing that he's actually Rei. He wonders how Anos discovered his secret, so he reveals that he heard him mention that the shell necklace he bought was unique, but he shouldn't have knowledge of the human customs, so it's proof that he remembers his past. We learned that Kano used his 7 sources to control the ancient emperors, and only Malleus wasn't controlled because he needed to keep at least one source. He decides to tell Anos everything that happened 2000 years ago, saying that the humans are weak. He knows that they betrayed him to plan the death of the Demon King after his reincarnation, and he thinks their actions make no sense, so he decided to change fate with the power of his sacred sword. He knew that they wouldn't stop until Jerga's revenge was fulfilled and Anos would need to wipe them out to achieve peace, so he took Anos' place, planning to be defeated by the humans to end the curse of Jerga's hatred. Anos talks about the shell necklace, saying that he has someone waiting for him, asking him if he's ready to abandon her, but Rei is determined to fulfill his plan and protect the realm, so he runs towards Anos, but he flies up and launches fireballs at Rei, but he cuts them and tries to get closer, but he ends up getting hit and falls back down, causing one of his sources to be destroyed. But Rei flies towards Anos again, but he gets stabbed and loses another source, but Rei forces him back and Anos summons a black sea that engulfs him and he loses another source, but he continues fighting and manages to strike Anos, but he uses his Geograce to burn Rei, destroying the 4th and 5th sources. Rei cut through the spell, but Anos pierces his body and destroys his 6th source, causing him to fall to the ground. Anos explains that he'll lose, but he gets back up, saying he only needs to win once, so he summoned a 2nd holy sword and attacked Anos with fast strikes. As he attempted to split him into 1,000,000 pieces, he began cutting his way through the massive Geograce until his sword stabbed Anos in the heart. He had been his plan all along, and Anos told him to stay with the love of his life forever. At that moment Anos' source weakened and he masked himself as Avos. At the sight of this, the hero realized that Anos was the true hero and hoped that this 2nd sacrifice would restore true peace to the realms. As the dark walls came down, everyone realized that the hero had slain the Demon King. Anos thought that this would create true peace and commanded the army to retreat until his reincarnation. As the hero pulled his sword, he began falling towards the ground and solved away, raising his sword. The hero declared that Anos was dead and that the war was over. As he sheathed his sword, the demon commander ordered his army to retreat. However, the deranged headmaster wasn't having it and began commanding his army to attack the demons. At that instant a spell was activated on the Zeshia army, but Ilana appeared before them, hoping to stop the war. The deranged man said that destroying the demons was the only way to create true peace, and as he grew angry he began emitting a mysterious energy, like a man possessed by an evil spirit. At that instant a soul rose out of him, transforming into a spell, and began hypnotizing the army to continue with the war. Just then an old commander Jerga appeared before their eyes, who had betrayed the hero 2000 years ago, and Rei tries to destroy him, but the sacred sword has no effect on him. Sasha and Misha appear to stop him, and Ivis casts his fusion spell as they hold hands, and the spell merges their 2 sources into one body. Jerga tries to stop her, but she continues advancing, so he orders the Zeshia to self-destruct, but Rei knocks them down. Misa creates a bubble and he disperses her magic to stop the other clones. The girls delay the spell, but Jerga is too strong and he gathers the clone army, causing a huge explosion as a light spreads across the realm, but the clones fall to the ground at the last minute, and Anos appears to help them. As Jerga wonders how he reincarnated after his source was destroyed, so he reveals that he activated a source magic and channeled the power of the hero's attack, transforming it into ancient magic to revive his source, but he explains that he can only do it with an attack he has already received. Jerga decides to eliminate him with his own hands and uses his spell to drain the life of everyone in the realm, transforming himself into a giant sacred knight. He attacks Anos, but Rei interferes and Anos tells him they can finally put an end to the curse. Rei charges in but is caught by an energy attack and thrown into the forest. Anos tries to immobilize Jerga with his chains and he starts burning him, but Jerga attacks Anos, sending him crashing to the ground. He appears to be wounded, but he uses Jerga's spell and asks for the girls' help again. So they join forces and share their energy. Jerga summons hundreds of sacred swords and launches them at the demon army, but Ilana protects them with her barrier and tells them to retreat, but they start to believe in Anos and they also share their power with him. Jerga tries to cast another spell, but he's electrocuted by Anos, who mentions that the 2 realms are now helping each other so they don't need to go to war, but Jerga refuses to accept it and Rei cuts his legs. Anos summons his castle and summons his demonic sword. He joins Rei to deliver the finishing blow, which erases Jerga from existence, and there's an explosion of energy in the sky. Sasha and Misha run to Anos and Rei finds Misa. Anos appeared before Ilana to fulfill his promise, so he cast a spell on her source telling her that she is now his magic and promised to protect her forever. Everyone accepts Anos as the true Demon King. He returns home and his mother is happy that he's safe, but she notices that he brought another girl home. Sasha also mentions the 10,000 Zesha, so they freak out thinking he has too much risk and story end here. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel for more upcoming videos.